It's the day after our local Flower and Veg Show. The question is, did we win anything? Hello and welcome back to the No Dig Norfolk Gardener channel. It's a very different day today. Yesterday, myself and Mrs. W are out here 8:30 in the morning trying to pick the produce as fresh as it could be to be able to exhibit in the show. We have felt the extremes of Storm Lillian blew her way through. And the very first thing we had to do is to clear up some of the mess that it made in the garden. We've lost a sunflower, and we've lost half a sunflower. The other half is really trying to hang on, and thankfully it still has some flowers on it. We also had some destruction to one of our cloches.
The sunflower fell on it.
Yeah, the sunflower fell on it. So we really had to deal with all of that first. Well, not the ideal preparation. Now, the main aim for this Flower and Veg Show, if you remember, I'll take you all the way back to actually January the 13th of this year, when we sowed our globo onions. They grew along really nicely all the way through the year. Some we multi-sowed, some we deliberately sowed singly. And it was the ones that we grew singly that actually ended up going into the show. And that was done on purpose because clearly if you just grow the one onion, it gets the advantage of having all that space and to grow as large as it can. But it was a good experiment because we've actually discovered that we like the globo onion, it tastes really good, and when you multi-sow it, actually we get bigger onions than the Reisenberger that we normally grow, didn't we?
We did, yeah. So that's going to be our onion of choice in the future, I think.
It is going to be our onion of choice. You are quite right, Mrs. W. Then a bit later on, I removed those onions a few videos ago. You saw the rest that we harvested. But I removed the ones that we were going to use for the show. That was about 2 weeks ago, and that was to let the top start to dry out. We then quickly scrambled to YouTube to find out how to prepare onions for an exhibition.
Good old YouTube. Where would we be without it?
Exactly, where would we be without it? And I have to say, Mrs. W did an absolutely magnificent job of prepping those onions and making them show ready. And a couple of 3 videos back, if you remember, we pulled some carrots from the Vegagar raised bed. And I actually made a comment that, do we do the onions or actually do we enter carrots, Mrs. W? We decided that because all of our produce is looking really quite good, that we would enter more than just the onions. We also decided to enter the tomato class. I think we did red cherry, didn't we?
Yes, yeah.
And also the eating class tomato.
The 5 indoor grown tomatoes. Yeah, and 5 red cherry.
We also decided to enter one of our Passandra cucumbers. See how we get on with those.
I did a vase of mixed herbs.
You did do a vase of mixed herbs.
Yes.
There was also a category for 9 cultivated blackberries And our blackberries this year are particularly large. So we decided to enter 9 of those. Now, as well as that, there was a category for any other veg. Because of the time of year, they didn't have a particular category for Savoy cabbage, did they?
No, you could enter a cabbage,
Yeah.
but it did state not Savoy, so we entered we only have Savoy, so we entered the Savoy in the other vegetable category.
And also, we entered one of our red cabbages into the competition.
That was a specific red cabbage category, that one was, separate from the other cabbages.
It was. As you can see, our runner beans and French beans, they're in full production now. There are many, many of them coming now. So we thought, why don't we enter some runner beans into the competition? And we actually entered 10 different categories. And I'm very pleased to say that all 10 were placed. We actually ended up with 6 firsts, 3 thirds, and a second prize. So we got a third for our indoor grown cucumber, which was the variety Passandra. We also came third in the 3 carrots. I must say there was some stiff competition there, wasn't there, with the carrots? There really were. But in all fairness, we only sowed those in June, towards the end of June, not for the idea of entering into the competition, but for us to be able to eat. It's only because they've done remarkably well that we thought we'd enter them in there. So to come third in that category, given the size of the carrots they had there, was really quite amazing. We also got a third for our 5 runner beans.
Yes.
And then Mrs. W, she got a second prize for her 9 cultivated blackberries.
Yay!
Mrs. W also entered the red cabbage category. And she got a first in that. She also entered 5 of our cherry tomatoes. Remember, in our recent poll and our taste test, you, the viewers, had that down as last. But it's one of Mrs. W's favourites. And she got a first for it.
I think that was a joint first, though, with another lady who I think also put in red cherry. They look very, very, very similar to mine. So
Mrs. W also got a first for 5 tomatoes grown inside.
they were the money maker.
They were the money
The
maker.
viewers will not be surprised to know that. The 2 varieties I chose were my 2 favourites.
And you know, when I first met Mrs. W, her dear mother had already departed from this earth. But one of the things she was really very, very good at was flower arranging.
Yes, she was.
And over the years, Mrs. W has been to various places with her, talks, WIs, all about how to arrange flowers. And of course that's rubbed off on her. So I'm very pleased to say Mrs. W actually got a first for her vase of herbs.
Yeah,
There needs to be 5 different herbs,
That's
didn't
right,
they?
5 different herbs, yes.
Sure, your mother would have been extremely proud. Now I entered the any other veg, as I said, and we decided to enter one of our Providence cabbages into that. And he got a first.
Yay!
And again, there were several entrants into that. There was some swede there, wasn't there, and all sorts. But how did we do with the onions? What happened when they were judged? we actually got a first for the onions.
Woo! But that's not all you got, is it, Mr. Wilson?
No.
No.
Because also I got a certificate of merit for an outstanding exhibit of Class 54, which was for 5 onions grown from seed. Which I was absolutely blown away by. I really was.
We both were. I think we were both quite shocked, weren't we?
But then they do the prize giving right at the very end. And to our absolute surprise and joy, we were awarded the best horticultural entry for 2024.
And considering it's the very first village show we've ever entered into, I feel really proud of us that we got where we did. And especially you with the onions.
So you can see what an amazing job Mrs. W done with making them exhibition ready. And remember, these onions were just grown in our no-dig soil. They've had no extra feed. I haven't given them anything extra. They've had no liquid feed, nothing. They've just grown in the compost that we made last year and which was spread the early part of this year. And although it wasn't about the heaviest onion, not by any means, it was about, you know, the way they've grown and the uniformity of them. But each of these onions were so close they were within 2 ounces of each other. And when Mrs. W weighed them, their heaviest one was 1 pound and 6 ounces. It's a great onion, really. Sown in January, transplanted in March, harvested just 2 weeks ago. Now the great thing is that all of the veg that's left there is all auctioned off, isn't it, at the end?
Yes, yeah.
To raise some funds for next year's village show.
It's not just vegetables and things, it's cakes and...
There was also photography there, wasn't there?
Yeah, there's a children's section. They could enter baking. There was one to make an animal out of vegetables and fruit. That was quite interesting to see.
And
all good fun, really.
it was just amazing to see their little faces light up when they actually won a prize.
Yeah, it
wasn't
was.
It really was.
Yeah, yeah.
It really was.
Really nice community spirit, I felt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We left all of our other veg other than these onions.
Yes.
Primarily because I wanted to get them on this video. And we've really enjoyed entering the show this year. So much we're going to enter again next year, aren't we?
Oh, yeah.
We've met
Yeah.
so many people down at the village hall, and hopefully we'll be able to enter even more categories. One thing we didn't realise is that to win the overall sort of trophy, it's done on points, isn't it? About how many points you get with the different...
Yes.
And of
yeah.
course we entered ours. I did 5, Mrs. W did 5. But we might have to enter them all under the same name next year.
The No Dig Norfolk Gardeners.
Exactly, so that we can build up the points. And maybe next year, we can win the big trophy. But you know, it's all about taking part, and it's so amazing. The veg has grown so well here in our No Dig Norfolk garden. And to actually have some awards, we get to keep this for the year. Yeah, an absolutely amazing day. I don't know if any of you guys ever enter your local flower and veg shows, but if you do tell us all about it in the comments. Let us know how you got on. It's a big learning curve for myself and Mrs. W this year, because the way certain vegetables are presented actually goes a long way towards the placing that you get. So we've taken away a lot of learnings. Who knows, maybe we can do a video on that next year, Mrs. W,
Maybe.
about how you need to present your veg. Because it's not just quite as straightforward as just plonking them on a plate or something, is it?
No.
A lot of people go to a lot of trouble.
They do.
So there's a source for a video, Mrs. W.
Yes.
As always, do let us know how you've been getting on. It's a bank holiday here in the UK, so it's the last one before Christmas. We get an extra day, Saturday, Sunday and the Monday. And hopefully you've had a great time out there in your gardens and allotments. Whatever you're doing, have a great gardening week. And we shall see you on the next one.